Physical exercise can be really good for your mental health, but how do you know if your body is actually ready to return to physical exercise, even if you've been cleared at your 6-week appointment with your doctor? Here are some simple tests that you can do to see if you are ready to return. The first one is a hip hinge. You want to make sure that you have core control when you hinge at your hip. That would look like bending at the hip, not the waist, and making sure that you feel that your abdominals are starting to kick in, that you don't feel like your back is doing all of the work. You might notice that you are arching up, or you might be tucking your butt. Those are signs that you have less core control with a hip hinge, and that is something that needs to be corrected. The second thing is, do you dome when you have increased abdominal pressure? So we want to check that out. It could be doing a crunch or a sit-up, or even if you are just sitting like this and lean back. And what happens in your abdominals when you lean back? Do you push them out like this? And if that happens and you cannot manage that pressure, and you get that either very narrow doming or kind of a wider dome, then that again means your abdominals are unable to withstand the pressure that you're placing on them. And that might only happen with certain activities, but you want to check in on that. The next thing to check in on is, are you able to use your glute muscles? So if you roll onto your stomach, place your hands onto your glutes, or have one hand on your glute, and then lift your leg. What do you feel? Do you feel that underneath your hand engages when you lift your leg? Or you don't really feel much here, you feel it all down below there in your hamstring? Or do you feel like you turn your leg out and you feel it a lot in the side wall of your hip? Or do you feel a lot of pressure into the front of the hip, right in here, when you are lifting your leg, and you can't get it to happen without pressing in? Okay, again, those are all signs that you need some corrective exercise before going into fitness exercise. Another thing to check out is, do you feel pressure down into your pelvic floor when you engage in certain exercises? So for example, if you go into a squat, do you feel pressure down into the pelvic floor? Or if you do a lunge or any other exercise or movement that looks like an exercise, do you feel pressure down into the pelvic floor? Again, that is something that we want to help your body manage before going into fitness style exercise. And then the last thing to check is, can you breathe in a 360 degree manner? Meaning, can you get your ribs to expand in a 360 degree position or mechanism? So if you put your hands onto your ribs, and you can do this in sitting on your side, but I'm going to do it in standing. Place your hands on your ribs. Can you get them to move up like an umbrella is opening? So all directions. Right? So I'm going to turn. So my back expands, my side expands, my front expands. I'm not just breathing into my chest like this. I'm not just breathing into my belly like that, right? So I'm getting my diaphragm to pull down. I'm getting my ribs to expand. I feel a little bit downward displacement into the pelvic floor. That is very, very key for core control, which you want to have established before going into fitness style exercise. So these are some really simple tests that you can do at home to check to see if you are ready to return to fitness style exercise. If you do any of these tests and you notice that you have some of these signs that I talked about, then really what you should be doing is corrective exercise, working with someone like myself to correct the management, to really assess where the weaknesses are, where the imbalances are, so that you can strengthen and improve mobility, so that you can then transition into a more fitness style exercise in a safe way that will provide you much more long-term impact.